watching Thrifty Kaniffy.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Thrifty Kaniffy. Well, I want to say hello, old friends. It's been a little bit. I've been longer in getting this review up than I would have liked. Each time I tried to kind of be alone in my thoughts, things just didn't work out. I've had a passing in the family. It's been a tough road this last month. So please bear with me as I do the review here. But I want to talk about the latest product from RoseCraft blades. I know I talk a lot about these boxes, but they are fantastic in getting the knife to you in a safe condition. Very nice foam. Very recyclable material. Good paper there. Thank you for doing a good job on the boxes, RoseCraft. They always get to you in safe condition. This is the Cumberland River Coke bottle, RCT-026. TWB, what does that stand for? That is toasted white bone. We also have another flavor here. This is the Cumberland River Coke bottle in RCT-026 LBM. Now, LBM stands for light brown micarta. So let's look at those two. Here's your toasted white bone. Here is your light brown micarta. We've got the spade shield on this one. Now, if you're keeping count, we do have multiple spade shields now. That is a thing. We had that on the Savage Creek. And potentially something else. Can't remember exactly. But that has been used before. So we do have the full suit of shields. We have the spade, the diamond, the heart, and the club. So if you're a man who likes to collect knives, you can definitely have all four suits for your shields. Now this light brown micarta, you can see they use very high quality linen micarta there. See the texture in that. And that beautiful light brown color. The shield is very well inlaid. Your pins are nice and smooth. And you have this satin finish blade with, guess what, a swedge. Andy loves a swedge. Satin finish on that is really nice. Sort of a vertical smoothing process there. And you can see that's a nice flat grind on there with a plain edge. And it is a sharp one. Very well done. Now these are done by hand. And he wanted to make a point to let you guys know. The finishing processes of this knife are all hand done. Okay? There's a lot of guys out there that want to say, and I don't really understand why, this is all machine-made Chinese crap. But these are the same guys that they don't really buy the knife. They don't put it in their hand. They don't look at it. They don't hold it. They don't feel it. And until you really get one in hand, do you really know? I mean, you can sit here and listen to me. I can tell you about how great the knife is, but until you try one for yourself, you know, all of that is just speculation, right? I mean, there's certain things you can see on video, but holding it in your hand, that's where it's at. But Andy wanted us to let you know he had a directive for this review is to kind of explain to people these are handmade. There's handmade processes involved in this, right? And he put out a video, and I will link that below to let you know, guys know, so you can see this very knife. Okay, it was a Coke bottle that it's in the video. This very knife, not this specific knife, but this very model of knife, made by hand. They have to pin it. They've got to grind the hafting. take all the excess material off to make it nice and smooth. They've got to, construct it so that there's no gapping. Get the liners all lined up. And then they smooth it out. So there's all these processes that take place by hand. They grind that edge by hand. You can see it's not 100% even, but it's damn close. I mean, they do a good job, right? All that by hand. Now, you say, well, we can get an American knife that's done the same way. Well, go on and buy yourself a new case and take your gamble and see if you don't have gaps. You guys know Andrew Baxter's Blades. He loves a good case. He buys a lot of new ones. Go check out his channel. He just was commenting on how he had to replace a sow belly that he bought because there was a chip right by the shield in the bone that he had, and send it back. Every RoseCraft I've ever purchased, there's not been a single issue with the knife that I would consider, worthy of having to return it. I think the only time I had something that I was a little bit disappointed in was a Nola Chucky, where the handle material was significantly different in shade side to side. Now that's a product of the bone, right? You're always going to have a little bit of different coloring in the bone, but it wasn't enough to send it back. But you can see this is really well constructed, and they do this by hand. All right. So I just want to point that out. But this is a beautiful knife. This is based on the Cane Creek that they had already made. And if I can toot my own horn, I believe I made that suggestion to Andy. Now, he may have already had that in mind. I don't know. But this is the second coat bottle that they've done. And it was based on this Cane Creek model. A little smaller, right? Now, this is a model that a lot of people like. In fact, I believe Slip Joint Sawyer, my good buddy, he probably has carried this particular RoseCraft more than any other. So I don't know that it's necessarily his favorite, but he's carried it more than any other, so he must like it. But you can see it's just kind of based on this design, but made larger. And this one was about a 3.5-inch handle, and they've just kind of upped that size to a 4-inch handle. Right? A significant difference in a 1/2 inch. A lot more depth. The blade shape is pretty similar. You get a nice belly on the clip point blade, which is kind of a really nice feature on this. I have some leather working buddies who really appreciate that belly because that allows them to kind of do a lot of, work with the leather to cut and manipulate the knife in a way that doesn't require them use it at an awkward angle, I guess, because you got quite a bit of belly there to work with. So there are a lot of reasons that are important to have, a little more belly on the blade, and you get that with this. So for those guys that do a lot of handwork, crafting and things, probably a good idea to check one of these out. Now, there's your Micarta. So here's your toasted white bone. Now, they've never done this before. This is a first for RoseCraft. You can see they've just taken white bone and then kind of burned it, torched the dark areas on the bone. I think they did a really good job. Now, that is going to have to require some hand effort there. But you can see they've done some pretty consistent job on both sides, in terms of the overall darkening of it. And they've left the edges white, which I think is really important. Kind of have to have that contrast, right? Like maybe they protected this area or something when they put it under. I don't know what they did, what the process exactly was. But anyway, I think the result is pretty cool. And a nice, unique approach, trying something a little different with their handle materials. Now, these are sold out on the RoseCraft's website, but they're $59.99, each of these. but you can get these at White Mountain Knives, I believe, and also Knife Center. So they're still out there. They're just not available on RoseCraft right now. Half stop on these, 3-inch, again, blade, maybe just slightly over. May not be 100% UK legal, honestly, but you're talking about just a smidgen, maybe 1/8 of an inch at most, a little bit over. But with the 4-inch handle, that's a good blade ratio. Some people were making the complaint that they don't have sort of the coffin end that the Cane Creek did. Now that is true. You do have more of a angular back on it, and they also had that RCB etch on the back, and that's not there. So it's not an exact, size up or anything like that. And I think the plain bolster is fine. You got the shield. But the roundness probably is a bit more comfortable, if I'm being honest. And the hand is probably why they did it. If they made it angular, it'd probably be poking you more. So I think for reasons of comfort and usability, they probably went with a more rounded back on it. But there's a good look at that toasted bone. Let's look at this side here. Again, all with these knives, the hafting is done really well, and spring position is always smooth. You got the closed position. Again, you get the half stop position, and then the open position. It's just smooth all the way through. So really nice design from Andy. I think the coat bottle is a popular pattern for traditional knife lovers, and giving them the option for a little larger knife, I think, was a smart idea. I've been kind of gravitating more to a slightly larger knife, but I think that Goldilocks zone still for me is about 3 3/4 inches. This is maybe a little larger than I need, but not by much. And I have maybe not the largest hands in the world, so for those bigger fellas, this is gonna really be rewarding for you guys that want a larger grip. Good snap on it. I don't think it's like, extreme, but at the same time, it's very usable. I think it's a very user-friendly open. I can pitch grip it open, but it does kind of fall where that nail nick is, so I'm kind of grabbing the nail nick just kind of with the meat of my thumb. But you can use both. It's probably about a 6.5 pull, I'd say. I've kind of had to readjust my scale after having handled so many Arthur Wrights. So what I may have said in the past, this was probably more of an 8, but now maybe more of a 6.5. Things have kind of changed, and the scale has had to been increased. Arthur Wright pulls are just out there, pretty crazy. But beautiful knife. What can you say? Threading is really nice. Nice coat bottle shape to it. Very comfortable in the hand. And I think this toasted white bone is going to be pretty popular. Probably going to be the one that gets the majority of the sales, I would say, over this one. But, I like them both, actually. I would have to have a hard time choosing between these, but because that Micarta has done so well. But great knives, very well constructed. Pulls on these are really consistent. So you're not going to have a lot of variance there, I don't think. This one might be just slightly lighter on the pull. Not by much. Again, still the stop pin design. Right. So you're not going to get that blade wrap. But yeah, hand constructed, guys. These are built in a large part by hand. So wherever that sort of myth came from, I don't know, but they're handcrafted in many ways. Pinned, hafted, blade edges sharpened by hand, constructed by hand to make sure there's no gapping there and they're made to a high standard. But yes, RoseCraft Cumberland Coke bottle, $59.99. Love the knife. Certainly going to be among a consideration for a nomination for Knife of the Year. I think it's a top-notch knife, and you finally get, you know, something just a little larger than the Cane Creek. I think that's a great improvement. So there you have it, guys. There's my take on the Cumberland Coke bottle. Hope you enjoyed the review. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell to be made aware of videos when they drop. We will see you next time. Make sure you stick around for the slideshow. That's coming up next. Take care.